Hey, Shalom. First and foremost, before I get started, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahawashi, Bahasham, Harakak, Wadash. I want to give double honors to the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone, the men of GMS that rule well, and peace and salutations to the elect of the true nation of Israel, Yasharallah. Quick lesson, man, on this TikTok, man. This Jake, these little dreads, man. Jake need to quit with these dreads, man. This is 2025, and you hear the apostles and elders and the men of GMS and the prophets of Yahawashi telling you to stop growing dreads, cut your dreads off, man. Stop having dreads. It's a heathen custom. That's not an Israelite custom. All right, the prophets of old that you read about in the Bible, they had rolls. All right, corn rolls. All right, braids. They didn't have dreads. All right, these dreads go back to a heathen custom, the Shiva Jatas. All right, going back to the time of the Persians and the Medes when they were in rulership and we were under them. And they used to smoke weed and they were the first thugs. All right, and guess what people wearing dreads today and are acting like thugs? Our people, because they're following away the way after the ways of the heathen. But nevertheless, that's neither here nor there. You just got to show. We just got to show our people, true love, man, because that's true love. All right, right. Love isn't just a butterfly feeling in your stomach when you hang out with the girl. No, love is rebuking, correcting someone that you love. All right, telling them to stop doing something that's not right, and to start doing something that is right according to Yahawashi, according to the ways of the Lord, if they like it or not. The scriptures say open rebuke is better than secret love. All right, so nevertheless, this is Jake. He's going into Russia, China, Iran, North Korea. When the scriptures talk about the kings of the East, and Jake is opening up their eyes. The Lord is waking up Jake to what's going on. Certain Jakes are just like, man, the Bible's real, man. I'm like, yeah, of course it is. And they're seeing these prophecies popping off the page of the Bible. All right, but they don't want to give us credit for what we've been telling y'all for decades. And I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about the men that I follow. All right, because I only been in this thing for roughly 4 or 5 years, man. And I learned what I know about the Bible or of the scriptures from the men of Great Millstone. All right, and they've been telling the whole world on YouTube, on the internet, and out there on the streets, the street corners, man, the highways and byways, for decades, about the kings of the East, about the prophecies in the Bible. But when Jake gets a hold of it, they don't want to give credit to the Lord, the Lord's men, the prophets of GMS and the followers of GMS, man. They want to give credit to themselves as if they figured it out. They didn't learn this shit on their own. They learned it from the men of Great Millstone, but they don't want to give credit. That's why we say double honors to our elders and apostles of GMS. All right, because that's who I learned it from. That's who we learned it from, man. All right. The scriptures say, ye shall enter into other men's labors. How can I learn? How could I know these scriptures? How can I know the Bible unless some man guide me? And those men is talking about the men of GMS, the Lord's prophets. All right. Those are the true prophets of Yahawashi, if you want to believe that or not, man. All right. So I'm going to let this Jake talk. Then we'll bring out some precepts. All right.
Okay, this is truly alarming. You got China, Iran, Russia, and North Korea all seeming to be in perfect alliance with one another. And one thing that's for certain is that they all have common enemies. All of these countries have common enemies. And one of the common enemies happen to be us, the US. One of the common enemies happens to be us and Israel, which is very interesting because you got Iran trying to get nuclear weapons. You got North Korea and their dictatorship, and you know that their little Kim Jong-un, he's ready to go any other day. We know he is cool with Putin. You have China with the trade wars on the U.S. Remember, the Bible talks about wars and rumors of war, and that is a sign of the end. And all we are seeing in the news headlines is wars and rumors of wars. But the interesting thing here is that Revelation talks about a war, and it talks about the great kings of the East. The great kings of the East. Russia, East. China, East. Iran, Middle East. North Korea, East. The kings of the East. It talks about a 200 million man army. And you might.
That's talking about the nuclear missiles, man. All right. 200 million, 200,000. That's 200 million. All right. So they can be shooting 200 million nuclear, hypersonic, intercontinental ballistic missiles at America, man. All right. At America during World War III, after for the conclusion of World War III. All right.
I say, well, there's not 200. If you add all of these countries together and you put their people in an army, you put these people in combat, it would probably equal out to 200 million people. And so they're going to march across the Euphrates River and wage war on God's people. That's Israel, and it seems like it's also going to be the U.S. if they don't alliance with each other to take out the U.S. first. Iran is trying to get nuclear weapons. Y'all might think that this is just nothing. I'm telling y'all, I was like, America is not in Bible prophecy, and if it is, it's Mystery Babylon. But if it's not, that means
Yes, it is. He's right. Mystery Babylon. The virgin daughter of Babylon. Babylon the Great, spiritually Egypt and Sodom and Egypt. All right. That's America written in the Bible. It doesn't say America literally. All right. Because the word America wasn't even a word at that time. So they used other words. All right. Like the virgin daughter of Babylon. Because that's what America is. It's a offshoot of the ancient Babylon, as ancient Babylonian customs, man. Spiritually Sodom and Egypt, because it has Egyptian and Sodom and Gomorrah customs being played out in America. All right. Babylon the Great, because America is the greatest kingdom and empire that has ever came, that has, that has ever, how do you say it, came to fruition on the planet.
it's not in the Bible, which means when the time of the end comes, America has to be removed, which makes this very interesting, especially with Iran trying to get, and mind you, America is just making enemies with everybody right now. They talking about drone strikes in Mexico. They striked, yeah.
Like the scriptures say, America will be making enemies with everybody. All right. The scriptures say the 10 horns will attack her, will eat her flesh, will turn on her. Talking about her, talking about America. That's the whore, virgin daughter of Babylon. All right. The countries that have fornicated with her, had deals with America, traded with their dollar, all right, adopted the American customs and whatnot, all right, dealt with America. Now they're doing the opposite, man. They're not dealing with America. They're, America's making enemies, putting tariffs on these other countries, and these countries are tired of it, man. And they're gearing up for war to come up against America, all right? And they're going to be backed up, and these other countries are going to be behind these major 4 countries, the kings of the East. All right, China, Russia, which is the main guard, the main king, all right, which is going to be a guard unto these other nations, like the scriptures say. And I'm going to get that precept. Iran and North Korea, man. They're the America's, biggest ally, biggest, enemies, all right, right now. These other countries that used to be allied with America, like these European nations and whatnot, even Canada itself, man, our neighbor, Canada and America are not in good terms right now, yeah, and Mexico, all right,
in 70 times. They're into it with China. They're into it with Iran with the nuclear weapons. They have been into it with North Korea, and Trump just threatened Putin. And you got everything else on the sun. You got everything that's happening inside of the U.S. as well. You got us. We're into it with Canada. We're into it with everybody
And like I just said, Canada.
but Israel. It's really us right now versus the world for the most part. That's not a good look. I'm telling y'all, that's not a good look. Okay, this is
You know what look that is? The destruction of this kingdom. All right. All right. Esau, the so-called white man, Esau is the end of the world, and Jacob, the Israelites, the Lord's chosen people, is the beginning of it that followeth. And the people in the land of Israel right now are not the true Israelites. Those are of the nation of Edom. All right, Amalek, the grandson of Edom, the so-called white man. All right, the so-called devil. All right, the devil that the Bible speaks of. That's why there's so much wickedness, going on over there, man. That's why they're wrongfully unaliving everybody around them, man. All right, because those are devils. Those are not the chosen people of the Lord. Like the scriptures say, ye are the synagogue of Satan. All right. And say that you're Jews, but are not, and do lie. So they're lying about their heritage. They stole our heritage and did, and made it and twisted it around and made it wicked. All right. See, the true Israelites are the so-called blacks, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right. And the people that look like the other nations, but their seed line, their bloodline through their father goes back to an Israelite, so-called black, Latino, Native American man. All right. Those are the true Israelites, which, hey, most of us are in America. The Americas, okay? And the Lord's going to deliver his elect, his righteous, his 144,000 elect and the 1/3 elect. He's going to deliver them by way of so-called UFOs, the chariots, tractor beamed up into the sky, so-called abducted. All right, right before the nuclear missiles, 200 million nuclear missiles hit America. All right. He's not going to save all of the Israelites here in America, because not all of Israel is of Israel, which means not all of Israel is righteous, and the Lord is not going to save all of his people, man. All right, because 2/3 of our people are wicked, like the scriptures say. 2/3 shall be cut off and die, like the scriptures also say, roughly paraphrasing. They shall know a death by pain, and that they is talking about the wicked of our nation, the wicked of the true nation of Israel. All right. The Lord's going to burn them up by fire, man, because they wanted to follow after their father, the devil. They wanted to be like the so-called white man. They wanted to be like Esau, Edom, the devil, and not follow after the ways of Yahawashi, the Lord, all right? They did not want to turn from their wickedness. They wanted to stay wicked. They did not want to learn and listen and hearken unto the Lord's true prophets, the men of GMS, Great Millstone, that you hear out there on the highways and byways and the street corners, all right? Lifting up their voice like a trumpet, all right? Not using a microphone, but using their voice, their actual voice, like a man, like the Lord told them to, all right? Bringing out the truth, telling them to repent, all right, and turn back to their Lord, their true power, Yahawashi, if they want to hear that or not. And they're also on YouTube and TikTok and on the internet doing the same thing, man, all right? Until the Lord returns and turns off the internet. Then the famine of the word is going to come, and bang, Israel, these people are going to be looking for the prophets, but the Lord, he's going to make them be quiet. He's going to make them dumb, which means quiet, okay? And their tongues cleave to the roofs of their mouth, which means the Lord's going to make them quiet. And then people are going to be looking for the truth, and it's going to be too late, because the Lord's giving you a chance every day. The Lord's giving our people every day a chance. Because there's lessons going out every day. There's a prophet of GMS and an affiliate of GMS out there on the highways and byways a day, at least one day out the week, if not on the weekends, in every major and also non-major city too, man. All right, there's me in Wichita, all right, and another brother here in Wichita. My brother, Mataza Lakam, all right, Mataza Lakam, Slakia, We're here in Wichita. I prophesy to Indian, and I got, he prophesies over there in 13th and hillside. Sometimes we come together. I go over there and he comes over here too, at the Indian, man. And then YouTube, so you Jakes have no excuse for what's coming to you. And Slocky for the righteous rant. I'm gonna get back on topic. So yeah, man. The kings of the east, Revelation 16:12. It says, and the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, and the water thereof was dried up. And the Euphrates has been dried up, man, for a minute. All right. So you know what time it is, man. We're in those times. We're in these times that the Bible, we're in the times of Revelation. All right. The end, the time of the end. That the way of the kings of the east, all right, might be prepared. All right. And that goes into the Vatican and, something else. But yeah, man, the kings of the east is talking about these major countries. All right. Ezekiel 3:38-1, it says, the word of the Lord came unto me, saying, Son of man, verse 2, set thy face against Gog, the land of Magog. All right. Talking about, America. All right. And Russia. Okay. The two major powers. All right. The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and prophesy against him, and say, thus saith the Lord Yahweh, behold, I am against thee, O Gog. All right. The chief prince of Meshach and Tubal, and I will turn thee back and put hooks into thy jaws, and will bring thee forth, and all thine army, horses and horsemen, all of them clothed with all sorts of armor, even a great company with bucklers and shields, all of them handling swords. Persia, Ethiopia, Libya, with them all. All right. So all these countries, man, are gearing up for war. All right. And it's being talked about here in the book of Ezekiel, written thousands of years ago, man. Thousands. Okay. And we're in the times of this happening, man. All right. All right. Persia, Ethiopia, and Libya, with them all of them with shield and helmet. Verse 6, Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togarmah. All right. Togarmah. All right. Of the north quarters, and all his bands, and many people with thee. Verse 7, be thou prepared, and be prepared, and prepare for thyself, thou and all thy company that are assembled unto thee, and be thou a guard unto them. All right. And who's that guard? All right. Who's going to be a guard unto them? All these other nations. All right. Russia. Okay. Russia is that guard, man. All right, unto these other nations. All right, that are going to come up against America, man. All right, because Russia is the second, power. Well, they're probably first now, over America now when it comes to technologically advanced weapons of war. It's America and Russia, and then China's right there too. When it comes to all these weapons of war. Joel 2:3, it's like in Joel 3:2. I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat. Let me get this. The blue letter, why not? Why don't we? All right, Joel 2:3, 3:2, Slakia. I will also gather all nations. All right, you hear that? All nations. That's what the Lord's doing, gathering and getting these other countries ready for war, man. You hear Pakistan and India going at it. They're actually, shooting and unaliving each other. Usually it's just like a standoff, but now they're actually, going at it now, man. So, we're in the times of war, all right? It says, I will also gather all nations and will bring them down into the valley of Jehoshaphat, all right? The Middle East, all right? Armageddon, all right? And I will plead with them there for my people and for my heritage, Israel, like I was ranting about. Who was I ranting about? The Lord's chosen people, us. All right. And that's why the Lord is gathering all these nations to go at war with each other. Why? All right. Because they're going to destroy themselves and end this wicked world, end this wicked kingdom. All right. And the Lord's going to save his righteous elect of Israel, those who've actually been serving him in truth and sincerity. They're going to be crowned in the heavens. All right. With Yahawashi, who the world ignorantly calls Jesus Christ. All right. Yahawashi. All right. And then we're going to ascend down from heaven with our new immortal bodies. Okay. With Yahawashi, with the Lord. All right. And take over the whole world, man. And put you heathens in slavery and build. And they're going to build and be our slaves and build our kingdom up for 1,000 years. And then we're going to set you heathens free, you know. And you guys are going to live in your separate lands that, you know, the Lord gave y'all. And you're going to be following our laws, statutes, and commandments. All right. And you're going to be living in paradise. Because the world's going to be turned into a paradise after that, man. All right. Because the whole world's going to be ruled in righteousness. That's why. See, the world is not ruled in righteousness, man. It's ruled in wickedness. That's why the world is the way it is, man. Everybody's suffering, even the heathens themselves, you know. All right. And then we're going to gather up all the Edomites, all right, the wicked of the wicked, you know, and we're going to burn them up in a, you know, and we're going to do away with them, man. They're going to go extinct. All right. There's not going to be no more Edomites, so-called white people. It says, and I will will plead with them there for my people, for my heritage, Israel, Yasharallah, whom they have scattered among the nations. All right. Because all you heathens had part in enslaving us. All right. Oppressing us. Verse 3. And they have cast lots for my people, and have given a boy for a harlot, and sold a girl for wine, that they might drink. Verse 4. Yeah. And what have ye to do with me, O Tyre, Sidon, and all the coast of Palestine? All right. Will you render me a recompense? And if you recompense me swiftly, it's like, and if you recompense me swiftly and speedily, will I return your recompense upon your own head. All right. Verse 5, because ye have taken my silver and my gold, and have carried into your temples my goodly pleasant things. The children also of Judah and the children of Jerusalem have ye sold unto the Grecians, that ye might remove them far from their border. Verse 7, behold, I will raise them out of the place whither ye have sold them, and will return your recompense upon your own head. And I will sell your sons and your daughters into the hand of the children of Judah. Like I said, you heathens are going to go in slavery under us when the Lord returns. All right. When the Lord gives power to us to rule over the world, man. All right. All right. Just as you heathens put us into slavery, sold us into slavery, we're going to do it to y'all. All right. And they shall sell them to the Sabians. All right. To a people far off, for the Lord has spoken it. Verse 9, it says, proclaim ye this among the Gentiles, prepare war, wake up the mighty men. And that's what's going on. The Lord is putting a mighty warlike spirit upon all these nations, man, because that's, you know, we're in that time. This is a part of the Lord's movie that, you know, these nations are getting angry at each other. All right. They're getting angry at America, and they're gearing up and getting ready for war, for World War III against America. And the same with America. America's putting all their, you know, tax dollars into what, you know, protecting that wicked land in Israel, all right, Israel right now, man. Prepare war, wake up the mighty men. Let all the men of war draw near, let them come up, all right. Beat your plows into swords, all right. You know, these countries, they're spending their money on war things like tanks and drones and weapon technology, man, and weapons of mass destruction. All right, they're getting ready for war. You know, that's what that means. Beating your plowshares. Plowshares are a tilling, you know, a cropping, you know, instrument, but they're turning them into swords, man. They're spending their money on weapons for war, and your pruning hooks into spears. Let the weak say, I am strong. All right. Who's that talking about? The weak. Let the weak say I'm strong. These countries, all right, were never really known for being warlike countries. And now they got weapons of mass destruction. India, all right, you know, Korea, you know, China's ready for war, you know, Brazil, the European nations. Canada is like, fuck it, man, we're tired of America. Mexico, Africa, these African nations in Africa, all right, the Middle Eastern nations, all right, these countries are getting ready. They're not playing no more. They're tired of it. They've realized they've been screwed and scammed by America. All right. Verse 11, assemble yourselves and come all ye heathen, and gather yourselves together round about. Thither cause thy mighty ones to come down, O Lord. Let the heathen be wakened. All right. That's what, like I said, that's what the Lord's doing, man. Waking up these heathens for war, man. They're realizing, who their enemy is. They're realizing that they're being scammed, being screwed over. They're like, oh, that's it, man. We're done. Look how our country is now, because we let America, we followed the ways of America. Our women are out of order. Our economy's screwed up. Our people are slaves now. We're working in sweatshops. We're suffering. We're being bombed. Our water's poisoned. Our air's poisoned. Our food is poisoned. And our animals are dying. Our people don't live as long. Life sucks. And they're realizing, with this social media and this internet, because, we're in the information age, knowledge shall increase. And these heathens are finding out that, hey, America's the reason, this Edomite, the so-called white man, is the reason why the world is the way it is, why the world is suffering, man. Let the heathen be wakened and come up to the valley of Jehoshaphat, the Middle East. All right. For there, the Middle East, will I sit to judge all the heathen round about. Put ye in the sickle, for the harvest is ripe. Come, get you down, for the press is full. The fats overflow, for their wickedness is great. Multitudes. All right. Bunches of army men. That's what that's talking about. In the valley of decision. All right. The Middle East. All right. Armageddon. For the day of the Lord is near in the valley of decision. For the sun and the moon shall be darkened, and the stars shall withdraw their shining. All right. So yeah, man, the Lord is, gathering these nations up. All right. The kings of the East. All right. Yes, those are the kings of the East. All right, Jake, you're figuring it out, man. All right. The Lord is opening up your eyes. We're in the times of World War III, man. All right. So the Lord's going to gather all these heathens in the Middle East. They're going to go to war at in America. All right. And yeah, man, the Lord's going to utterly steamroll them, destroy them, when the Lord returns with the so-called UFOs and nuclear missiles and the so-called laser beams, concentrated fire coming out of those so-called UFOs, the chariots of the Lord. All right. In the war of heaven that the scriptures talk about, that's talking about these armies fighting against the Lord's chariots, all right, in the heavens when he returns. All right. And that's a lesson for another day. All right. So I hope this was edifying to the elect. Until next time.